Hello, hello. It's been a minute, but welcome back to the struggling survival server. Now, take a look around. Take a look at the frame, the scene here. Do you notice anything new, anything different, anything a little end game? Right. We finally got Endstone to finish off our starter house. We went on a little expedition and slaughtered the Ender Dragon after it slaughtered most of us. Roll the clip. Yeah. That and dragon fight was it was definitely a time, we'll say. It was maybe even a bit of a disaster. Nothing went according to plan, but it was good fun. Just hanging out late at night, doing some video gaming with friends. But now we have, endstone to finish off our base. I think probably grab some purple. We have access to the end, and I finally got an elytra, which means now we can actually get an aerial view of the base just in normal gameplay, which is, it's a little bittersweet. It's the end of the walking on the ground era, but on the other hand, now we can travel places faster, and yeah, I gotta admit, it is nice being able to like actually fly through here. I needed to check the durability on that thing. And something interesting is, flying around like this, the base just seems so small now. Which means I need to expand it. Oh, oh, oh. I love lag. Well, let's take advantage of this while it lasts, or I will just explode upon contacting a wall. So you may notice there's a few new things around the base. Just some behind the scenes stuff. This episode has been kind of it's been in limbo for a while. Now, I mean, I've been very, very busy IRL. Who would have thought? Oh, yeah, who would have thought like full-time work would consume so much of your time? Crazy. But I have been slowly doing things on the side, and I still do want to make these videos. It's just, time. I need more of it. How does one get more? I don't know. And then also on top of that, I did do a lot of recording for this episode that I kind of had to scrap all of it because the audio was absolute dog water. It was horrible. Like, it's so bad. So unbelievably bad. Completely unrelated side note, if you drive a loud, obnoxious car, I want to dismantle it and throw it into a river so it'll never see the open road again. Totally unrelated to the audio issues I was having. But yeah, so we'll just do a little run around, recap on what I've been working on, and yeah, that'll be something new. Now, of course, Exhibit A here. The new plants from 1.21. Whatever, not the gassed one. I adore these plants. They're like the whole autumnal forest thing that I got going on here. These fit in perfectly, and right now it's fall has started. The leaves are turning. I'm just in the mood to capture those fall vibes, and this new foliage is perfect for that. These are such gorgeous fall colors, and once it's night and we get the firefly bushes around in the forest, just chef's kiss on those vibes. And then the nice dry brush, something kind of funny. I don't remember if I mentioned it in a previous episode or if I mentioned it in the scrapped part of this episode, but I actually was trying to get the dried brush look earlier with this wheat, and now that we have actual dried brush, we can kind of combine the two and get some variety in our foliage. Like, something that I really like what they're doing is they're letting us do texturing with plants now, which is pretty awesome. Like we're getting close to being able to do plant gradients, which is nuts. And then of course we also have the leaf litter here. This might be my favorite bit of the foliage. Like, blending the path out into the podzol, it works perfectly for that. But my absolute favorite part of the leaf litter is the sound it makes. Like, it's just lovely. When I went out to gather all this foliage, the new forests have that layer of leaf litter in them, and just trudging through it, hearing the leaf litter sounds mixed in with the grass noises, it's just incredible. It's so atmospheric. I love it so much. And I need to bring that here now. And then, of course, wildflowers. These are just so good, so good. Little, tiny little pops of brightness. I think pairing that with the cherry blossoms here, just incredible, incredible. But there's been more than one update since we've last been on. You may see him over there. Boy. See how laggy this is. Rats. Say hello to Driftblum. I was gonna take him out for a fly, but I have a hunch that I have a hunch that that's actually a really bad idea. These things, I'm really excited to build these guys. I think since I want to build so many custom trees, these trees here that I built, we'll get to that. Were actually built using our boy Driftbloom here, and I'm like, especially I think putting the leaves on trees, these are going to be so nice. Because a big issue around, or not an issue, but just like a little annoyance with something like this, it's just getting the leaves up there. You build like a whole network of scaffolding, and then you kind of have to go down, kind of step back, take a look at it, and then sometimes it's like, oh, I need to change something. So then you have to build the scaffolding back up, and you do want to take the scaffolding down to see what it looks like uninterrupted with scaffolding. It's like a whole thing. But we also just, now we have this. And it's just a platform I can put there. And I think also with, building more buildings here in the city area, doing all these sorts of like trims, it's going to make this a lot easier. I'm really excited to see how, or like to figure out ways to incorporate these guys into the building process. I'm just going to need to, fix the server lag issue. This hasn't been happening. It hasn't been this laggy. This is new. This is new today, day of recording. And the last thing that I did in the footage that I scrapped was put in these trunks. Because something I had been thinking about for a while is just the size of the trees that I've built so far. So we'll hop up here. And this was also inspired by, flying around on the Happy Ghast and also with the Elytra. We're just going to hang on this edge here until Elytra fly mode ends. Actually, we'll go over here. Yeah, don't die. All right. I love like this rules. So, especially flying around, you get a very different sense of scale for the builds. And everything, like up in the sky, this all seems so small. Like all the buildings we built are small. And all the trees that were surrounding them also feel small. If you go outside and look at a tree, most trees, trees tend to be like larger than the buildings, especially, if you have small rustic cottages. The trees next to said cottages are like usually pretty tall. And this is something that you can kind of see me. I was thinking about this when I was building these trees. I started off with these trees up here. I was like, they seem a little small. So then this tree over here is like this is a good sized tree, I think. And I'm not going to change the size of these trees here because, in my head of like how this area has gotten settled, having smaller trees near, like clustered into the town proper, like next to the cottages, that makes sense, right? If you wanted to clear the land to put down a cottage, you probably would have cut down all like the big trees to make space for these buildings. And then the smaller trees are more saplings that were left or were growing from those old trees. So I feel like it makes sense to have some smaller trees in this area proper. But I also want to have a forest kind of around here. And forest trees need to be big. So that's what these are. So I want to surround this area with very, very large trees. And I think that'll help really enclose it. And honestly, already adding all of these has made this area feel so much larger and has added so much depth already. Just putting these spires in, it's kind of crazy. Here we get a much better sense of scale. So if you look out over here, you can see here you get a sense of scale and distance with the fog. The new fog, immaculate, love it. And then over here, we get, not only do we get the depth from the fog, but we also get a bit of parallax going on with the trees. So that's like this tree here, when we move side to side, it moves faster than that tree back there. That's parallax. So you have like kind of different layers on a plane, and that is something that I found that I really need to incorporate that into the forest that I build here. I've had this dream of building a forest, like a thick, dense forest in this game for a while, and I think I do actually have a demonstration of this. Hold on. We're gonna hop into creative mode real quick. And once I get somewhere safe, because I don't want to log on and perish. And this also gives me a really good opportunity to reset the server and hopefully fix all this lag. Hello, and welcome to a surprise segment of Noodling in Creative in Survival. Now, I want to go over this little forest theory that I've had kicking around for a while now. This right here is a proof of concept for it that I built a few years ago. And the theory itself is kind of the antithesis of the expression, see the forest for the trees. No. I think it's actually a lot more useful and better for survival gameplay to, instead of thinking of a forest as, a collection of trees where you have to build a tree and then build a tree and build a tree, it's better to think of it as the forest itself is one singular structure, and it has a number of elements, a number of elements that all have their own important design considerations. And the whole process of building the forest could be similar to building, say, like a large castle. I know, the standard castle, or standard way people build castles is you start with, a layout, where you want to put things down, and then, kind of mess around with the shape, get that feeling right, and then you'll, build up the walls, and then you'll have like these blocks, and then once you have that, you'll like throw on the roof, and then you'll do a finishing detail pass, that sort of thing. I think that sort of design and building approach can actually be applied to a forest. And I haven't had a good opportunity to actually test this theory, and I think now I want to do this on the Struggling Survival server. So the first thing, before you start building any forests, is to kind of figure out figure out the layout, right? You want to have important features planned out, so I think where a path is going to go, where any clearings would go, and then any special spots, points in the forest where you want to just stand and feel the atmosphere, like a boulder in the sunlight, or a little stream or waterfall going by, things like that, of that nature. So figure out where you want to put all those things down first, and then we can move into phase 2, which is building up the trunks, building the forest around these spots. Now the trunks are, I think, probably the most important and defining part of a forest for getting that feel. When you walk, or when you kind of move past a forest, this is kind of what I was talking about in the last segment of that parallax. I think that really, really helps in showing the depth of the forest, right? So this particular section was designed to be viewed from a path running along here. So when you look in, you can kind of see, you get the parallax effect with the trees in the back moving slower than the trees in the front. And I think this one, I don't remember like the specific design details because I built this years ago, but I think I designed it so that you couldn't really, from this angle specifically, you aren't able to see like every tree at once. So like here we have a couple trunks hidden, and then we move over here and like they start to show, but then this one kind of gets hidden. So you can't see everything all at once by moving along this way. And I think it just makes it a lot more interesting to look at. You can really kind of play around with this quite a bit. And then another really important thing with the trunks is getting sight lines. So say you wanted to have a certain spot, like either in the forest or, next to the forest, where you could reveal something, like say you have like a cottage somewhere, like say this cave is a cottage, you can only see this cave from here. Anywhere else it gets kind of blocked. And so you can play with sightlines to have reveals along paths, or if you have like a clearing in the forest or one of those special spots, shaping all of the trunks and sightlines around it to really nail that atmosphere. Putting in the trunks is when you do that. Then after the trunks is putting in the canopy. And, I think one of the most notoriously difficult things about building a tree in Minecraft is shaping all of the leaves. It's a lot of, going in, placing down the blocks, then you step back and take a look at it, and then, okay, we need to add something up here. It's a lot of back and forth. And if you're, treating the forest like a collection of trees and doing that to every tree, that's insane and so time consuming and so much effort. And for something like a forest, like not all of that's going to be seen, right? Say I started with this tree here and shaped it and got it perfect. Then I put down this tree, and 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 I shaped all of them. The shapes only matter on like this tree and this top corner of that tree up there. Because, in a real forest, all these trees are next to each other. A lot of the shapes of trees, especially deeper into the forest, they blend together and they get covered by other trees. So you don't need to shape everything. So once you have, the layout of the forest, like where all of these trunks are going to go, then you kind of know what trees you actually need to shape. And since you're designing it from specific sightlines, you really only need to shape it from the sightline, right? You don't need to make sure the tree looks perfect from back here, because it's not going to be viewed from back here at all. You only need to get it looking perfect here. One of my favorite things about this little demo is that if we sneak to the side here, it looks hideous. I hate the way it looks from here, but it's not designed to be seen from here. Whoa, it got downright apocalyptic. Oh, that's better. I think I threw together this little demonstration. So this is kind of like what a sample layout of this forest strategy could look like. The brown is the inside of the forest, and this green here is a bit of a perimeter, and then this marks a clearing, right? So you have all of these detailed trees surrounding the perimeter, and then you don't need to be as detailed when you're going in, filling in the rest of the canopy. You can kind of just put down some general leafy shapes, and you just give them a backdrop. So, and then of course to add some extra like depth or interest to the forest, maybe you could put some, detail a few bits up on the top here. That is a lot more manageable than, say, putting a tree this detailed everywhere in here. But shaping the perimeter is not the only important design element for the canopy. If you've ever been in a forest, I think, we can all agree that another really critical part of nailing forest atmosphere is the lighting. When you're standing in the middle of a forest and you have, little rays of light that have been filtered through the leaves, so you have just a few rays poking down that have actually made it from the sky through the canopy. All the shadows of the leaves on the leaf litter on the ground, like that's all really, really important for the forest atmosphere. And I think that can be achieved in Minecraft. Like looking at Hermitcraft with what Scar did in his base with the redwood trees, where he poked a skylight along the like in the top of the tree to cast daylight down one side of the trunks of these things. you got like really, really, really good illumination where, you know, one side was like just natural shading with just using daylight. And it looked, oh god, it's so good. And I think that sort of technique can be employed in here, letting natural light down in very specific spots to, you know, give bright spots to the forest and dark spots, and just kind of nail that, you know, light filtering down through the trees but not being everywhere atmosphere. And it's kind of hard to really get a feel for that in this sample, just because it is so small. But that is absolutely something that I want to explore and mess around with when I'm building, you know, a larger scale forest on the Jungle Survival server. And then once you have, you know, the canopy built and all these trunks, then you really just get to go around and do all the detailing, right? So it's like putting in bushes and bushes and bushes, and also like things like, you know, dry grass and just extra little bits, maybe some pebbles around, and just like really filling out the forest with like details and foliage. And then, you know, you'll have a forest. I'm really, really excited to try this out and like put, you know, test my theory on the Struggling Survival server, because I really think this is just a much more feasible way to build a forest. Because originally, like, before I had this idea, like the idea of building a forest, or the other forest I had attempted to build was more of the collection of trees, and I got a few trees in. It was just like, just thinking to myself, this is not it. This is gonna be exhausting. And I think I really think this has a lot of potential to result in a really, really cool atmospheric forest, you know, that can capture the real life vibe of a forest, since kind of I'm focusing in on all of these little forest details individually, you know, like the magic spots in the forest, the sight lines, the parallaxing of it all, the lighting, and then the shape. But it's not, you know, an insane amount of shaping. It's a more reasonable amount of shaping. You know, it's not a collection of trees. It is one object. It's basically just like one really big decorative room, and the walls are just lines going upwards. Yeah. So hopefully this was interesting and hopefully informative. And you know, if any of you guys test this out before I get to it, because this is going to be an ongoing project for the next while on the server, let me know how it goes. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of forest theory. My plan, my vision, it's a little insane, is to put forest, you know, start about there. And we just kind of put it down along the other side of the riverbed. Just, you know, something small. But yeah, that's going to be quite a time commitment. But I'm hoping, you know, now that we have an elytra and a happy guest, that making these trees is going to be a lot easier. And again, you know, the strategy for building this forest is build up all the trunks and then put in the leaves. And since now we have giant floating platforms in vanilla, I feel like putting up the leaves on massive pillars is going to be a lot easier. I just need to figure out what's causing the server lag, because if I try and use the happy gas from the server this laggy, I'm going to die. I'm so stoked to finally have this endstone to really like touch up and finish up all of these starter cottages. Like, look at how much that adds. That it's just like kind of it's more of a greenish yellow than this, like a pale yellow. It adds like little splashes of color, especially helps blend it into the green. Maybe it adds like a little bit of an overgrown, slightly mossy look to the cottages. It helps it adds more pop to these walls. And the texture of the endstone blends in so nicely with the texture of normal sandstone. you just have to use it in really small amounts, and just the splash of color it adds is perfect. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Stalling complete. Like right there. It just a little bit more depth on these cottages, and I love it. I love it so much. Like, you can, from here zoomed out, you can barely even tell, but it just, I love texturing. I love this game. I love all the new stuff that they're adding. So I got, got 2 new drops worth of stuff, built up some trees, put in some endstone. Sorry, this episode's been a little messy. It's, behind the scenes shenanigans were afoot, but I have a lot of that stuff ironed out now, so I just need to kind of get into a groove of balancing making videos with full-time employment, which I haven't found the balance of yet. But I do actually have a plan. I have a very specific plan for next episode. I'm going to dip my toes into Buildstone. So stay tuned for that. I'm hoping it's going to add a lot more life to the city. I'm really excited for it. I needed some new game drop stuff to really make it possible. Oh, look at those particles. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I grabbed. Did I put it? Here we are. Hail oak. You probably saw some of it in the base of these trees. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Sorry for the mess, and hope you have a good day. See you hopefully in less time than it took between the last episode and this one. See ya.